right?
She saw me walking, calling my dog and crying.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
She saw you picking up the puppy. You let a 13-week-old puppy out alone. It's like letting a 6-month-old baby who's just learning to crawl.
Dominique Rogers is suing her neighbor, Tamela Thomas, for taking her French bulldog puppy without permission.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case number 3008, Rogers versus Thomas.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Rogers, the first couple of lines of your complaint indicate that you're a dog breeder.
Yes,
What kind of dogs do you breed?
Frenchies.
How long have you been doing that?
Actually, just now starting. It's my first time.
So that's not your business. What do you do?
For a living, I am a customer service representative.
From whom did you purchase these 2 dogs that you had? One Ghost that was a 1.5 years old. I assume that that's a male.
Yes. He was purchased from a breeder in Pontiac, Michigan.
When he was a puppy?
Yes.
And the second dog that you got was a female, and you intended, I assume, to breed those 2 dogs.
Yes.
And that was a 13-week-old French bulldog.
Correct.
That you got from where?
From a local breeder who's been breeding Frenchies for 30 years in my city, Muskegon, Michigan.
This is what your complaint, I'm reading it. I'm sort of wide-eyed reading it. You got 2 dogs, the puppy you got in February. You let the dogs out to use a potty break. The property that you let them out on is not fenced. The puppy was 13 weeks old. You let a 13-week-old puppy out with a dog that was probably used to going in and out. You let that 13-week-old puppy out alone, and you claim that the defendant stole the puppy. That's your claim.
Yes.
So my first question to you is, why in the world would you let a 13-week-old puppy out in an unfenced area? Why? What were you thinking?
I was just letting her out to use the bathroom. This is something that I normally do.
No, you don't. You just got this puppy. She was 13 weeks old.
Well, I've had the 13-month-old dog for over a year.
Well, that I understand. I mean, that's also foolish, but I understand if you've had the dog for over a year and you've trained the dog to come home, that it knows where to come, but not the puppy. What were you thinking about? That the older dog would discuss with the younger dog not to run off, but to use potty and then run back into the house? I don't understand what you were thinking. I mean, I've had dogs all my life. 13-week-old puppies, they don't know where they're going. Anyway, you let the dog out on what date?
February the 27th.
What time?
Around 2 o'clock.
And what time did you realize that the little girl was missing?
Not even 15 minutes later.
So what did you do?
I quickly put on my shoes and I started walking down the street calling the dog's name.
And?
I didn't see him.
And?
I see a neighbor who's behind a abandoned house that's on the corner, and I asked him had he seen my puppy.
You cannot tell me what anybody said to you.
Okay, so I'm just asking around. They started telling me.
You can't tell me what anybody told you, madam.
Okay.
Is this a witness who saw something, or is this just somebody here to keep you company while you're here?
She's a witness.
Tell me your name.
Lana Carson.
Miss Carson, do you live on the same block?
I do not.
What are you a witness to?
I'm an animal control officer for our county. That afternoon on the 27th, I was scheduled for various welfare checks for animals. One of the calls that I had to go by the area. So as I was coming down the road, on the left-hand side, there was a house that must have had a recent fire or something. And there were several people that were standing out in the house. So it caught my attention. Right where that house was on the corner, we had to make a left-hand turn to get to the address that we were going to.
Not her address.
Not her address. My call was unrelated. As I came around the corner, there were 2 French bulldogs that were in this front yard. One was like a tan and white. It was an older, bigger dog. And then the other one was a small tan puppy. 2 dogs were running loose, so it, of course, caught my attention. I am the dog catcher. So as the dogs were in this yard, I just kind of kept an eye on.
Because there were no fences there.
In this particular yard, there was a fence, but there was an opening. And there was a lady that was in the yard, and she bent down and picked up the small tan puppy and was holding the puppy, but the other dog, the bigger dog, got through a hole that was in the fence. It was an open gate. So I immediately rolled down the window and said, "Do you need help with this? Do you want me to grab the dog?" And the gal who was holding the tan puppy said, "No, he's got it." And I said, okay. Now, at this time, I'm in an unmarked vehicle because we were on welfare checks.
When she said, no, he's got it, did you see any male there?
There was a male that was standing in the driveway of this house. So I did see somebody. And so when she said, no, he's got it, I was assuming it was the gentleman because I did see somebody in that driveway. She was still holding the tan puppy. The adult dog then ran another house down. I'm like, okay, I didn't see anybody coming around the corner. She was standing there holding that tan puppy. I asked again, are you sure you don't want me to grab this dog? And she once again said, no, he's got it. Then I started getting a little, frustrated because this dog is still making its way down the block.
Down the block, untethered?
Untethered.
And unaccompanied.
Correct. So another house down, the dog kind of jettied back behind a yellow house. And one last time, because I made a comment to my coworker who was riding with me that day, I said, well, chances are we're going to be getting a call for a lost Frenchie that day. So at that time, when I saw the dog go behind this house, again, I hollered back. I said, that dog is down here. And then that was it. So we went on to our call. She was still standing there with the tan puppy.
Is that person in court today?
Yes.
Dominique Rogers claims her neighbor, Tamela Thomas, stole her French bulldog puppy and gave it away.
Is that person in court today?
Yes.
That's the defendant?
Yes.
When you got the call that a dog was missing, that was a Frenchie from that area, did you make contact with the plaintiff?
So the same day, Dominique did call in a missing dog. The next day, however, because we did, crazy enough, get a Frenchie in. So our office called Dominique and said, please come down to the shelter. That's our protocol. So we asked people to come down to the shelter. That day I was working actually in office, not out in the field. And so Dominique, when she came into the shelter and said, hey, I got a call, part of our protocol is we ask that the owner gives us a picture of the dog. And so she showed me a picture of the dog.
And it wasn't the dog that you had in the shelter, but you recognized the dog.
Very much. I said, oh my gosh, this is the dog that I saw yesterday.
How far does the plaintiff live from where you saw the defendant holding the puppy?
About 3 doors down.
Okay, all is now in your court. Let's go. Do you remember her?
What?
Do you remember her?
I remember a lady saying something one time in a white van. If she was the lady in the white van, that's someone did talk to me.
The lady in the white van says that she asked you 3 times. Did I get that?
True.
3 times. Do you need help here? Tell me what you were doing with her dog.
If she seen me, she seen a guy at the
Don't
corner.
tell me what she saw. She saw you picking up from a front yard. I assume it's yours.
No, not my front yard. It's the house across the street.
So you saw the 2 Frenchies, the big one and the little one, in a yard across the street from you?
Yeah, I seen the...
Just shh.
Yes.
And you crossed the street.
Yes.
You crossed the street and picked up the puppy.
They were trying to catch it.
Who was trying to catch it?
2 guys I seen out there. They were trying to catch it. They wasn't by each other at first. It was a small one by the opening, and there was a bigger one. I didn't see that one till later. Like, I seen the small one first. They were trying to catch it. So they the dog, trying to get the dog. So I went across the street. I grabbed the little one. It was almost by the fence. Okay, so I grabbed the dog. As soon as I picked up the dog, I lifted it up. She said, asked the question 1 time, that's it. And she kept going. I never seen her no more. I never held it. She never came back again because it was that fast. I went right back across the street. I handed the dog off and left.
To who?
It was a guy. It was 2 cars parked on the side. It was a silver car, and I'm not sure what other vehicles right there, but they were both outside the car. And I handed the dog off because they were already out there when I came outside.
You see any 2 men?
I saw a lady with long black hair, long gray coat. There was a gentleman with a black coat and a black hat, and then there was another woman there.
Another woman?
Mm-hmm.
When did you first find out, Miss Thomas, that this dog belonged to the plaintiff?
The next day.
Tell me how you found out.
The police officer came and asked me, have I seen these dogs? He was going around house to house. And I said, yes, I seen them yesterday. And I told them I handed it off to a male.
And you didn't say anything to him, didn't have an exchange of conversation,
He said thank you. I was really trying to get my groceries out the car at the time, and I had a little baby. I went back. My mom was in the house at the time with the baby. That was baby. I didn't ever have no conversation.
This is your mother?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Step up, please. Tell me your last name.
Phillips.
You remember the day that your daughter is talking about, which is February 27th?
Yes.
How do you remember it?
She came back in the house. I asked her, did she need any more help getting the groceries out? Because I was in there watching the baby. And she said, no, she got everything. And then...
So she said, no, I have everything.
Yeah. She told me she got all the stuff out the car. And then she wanted to say, she said, these people was out there. I had helped the people get their dog. I thought she was being a good Samaritan. I didn't know this was going to take effect like this. I thought she was just being a good Samaritan, and that was it.
Do you have any dogs?
No.
Does your daughter have any dogs?
No.
Did the two of you live together?
No.
When had you arrived at her house that day?
I know it was in the daytime. It was kind of early when I got over there. I usually go to work, come home.
Not I usually. I want you to tell me what time you got there. You remember everything about that day.
It had been probably about 12.
You got there at 12?
About 12.
And what time did she leave for the grocery?
Probably about an hour and a half of me being there, about an hour and a half.
So she left about 1:30?
Probably about 1, because she was back. She didn't get a lot of stuff. Probably about 1.
And what time did she return?
She wasn't gone real long, about 45 minutes probably.
So she was back by 2 o'clock?
Yeah.
And what time did you see the defendant with the puppy?
Probably shortly before 2 o'clock.
Miss Carson, you've heard Miss Thomas say that when she came home from grocery shopping, she saw these two dogs across the street. One of them was a small puppy. She went over and picked up the small puppy. She believed that these two men, she said two men, you said you saw a man and a woman, and the dog belonged to them. She turned the puppy over to them. You're an animal control officer. Is anything that you saw on that date inconsistent with what the defendant just told me?
I do know that there was a female there. There was a male. She was already over on the side of the house where the dogs were, and she was picking them up.
Who was picking them up?
I'm sorry, the defendant had picked up the dog.
The puppy?
Yeah, I did not see anybody else trying to get these dogs. She was the only one that was in pursuit of these two dogs, and just picked up the one, and then it was just kind of like, oh no, he's got it, you know. That's why I was kind of, this dog is getting away. There wasn't a lot of, you know, intent on getting that other one. That's why I was following it. So I did not see anybody else that was trying to help get those dogs.
When did the people approach you and say, this is my dog? She didn't see anybody.
They were already out there, and they were trying to get the dogs already. And that's when I came across the street, and then the little one started going that way, and I grabbed it. And I went right back to that corner and handed the dog off. She seen me hand the dog off. When the police asked me, I told them, I said, a white van rolled past and everything. I said, they were there. She was like, did I see Pound Buddies? I said, no. Because she said she was in an unmarked car. I'm thinking maybe that was them, but I'm like, I seen a lady in a white van. That's it. And she seen me hand the dog off, and I went back across the street with the long coat. I walked right. I didn't have no dog in my hand, not even 5 seconds. I picked the dog up and straight handed it off. So how would you dare and ask me 3 times that I need help? You didn't ask me no 3 times, nothing about no help.
Dominique Rogers has accused her neighbor, Tamela Thomas, of stealing her French bulldog puppy. Tamela claims she gave the dog to a man she thought was the owner.
Okay, Miss Rogers, you know how all this could have been avoided?
If I wouldn't have ever let my dogs out unattended.
Right, which you're not supposed to do anyway. Not the big one, and certainly not the little one. And I'm not prepared to label Miss Thomas a thief based upon what I heard. I'm just not prepared to do that. I think that there could be a scenario where that happened. But even based upon your witness's testimony, I'm not prepared to do that, to label her a thief. So what other evidence do you have to show me that she was a conspirator in waiting for you to let your dogs outside and stealing the puppy?
I'm not saying that she was a conspirator to waiting. I certainly left the opportunity open. I have a big sorry yard. I'm a renter. Me and my landlord have went back and forth many a times.
Has nothing to do with your landlord. It has only to do with you. It has only to do with you. That's what leashes are for.
I understand. And so, with that being said, I have a police report.
I'd like to see it.
She says, okay.
On the 28th of February, Dominic stated that a French bulldog was stolen from the side yard of her residence. She was told that a taller black male came into the yard and took her dog. She stated that the male subject was wearing a red coat with a white hat. Who told you that?
That's what I was trying to tell you when the neighbor, and you told me don't mention that. This is the one, the top page is the one that I'm showing you where she admitted.
Where she what? Admitted that she handed the dog off to somebody in a car that she thought was the owner. That's what she's saying. I thought that this was the owner.
She said in the car, but then she just said a few seconds ago that they were standing next to each other, and she gave it not in the car.
He had been in a silver car.
Yeah.
He had been in a silver car.
Can I also say this, ma'am?
Yeah.
When I came outside with my other dog, Tamela crossed my path, seeing me out there looking ugly and stupid, calling my dog and crying. She walked right past me.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did. In that gray coat and that long black hair. She's she's so pretty. I didn't think she cared about my dogs. So I didn't say anything, and I'm screaming and yelling. Why, as a good Samaritan, she didn't say, hey, it was that same day. She didn't say, hey, what are you looking for? She walked literally past me with my white dog, standing next to me, and I had him on a leash at that time, because we were both out looking for Penelope. She saw me walking and calling my dog. And that's how I knew who she was talking about when I called the pound buddy, because she described
a neighbor told you. A neighbor told you.
The neighbor and, I'm sorry.
A neighbor, I'm just telling you, a neighbor told you that a male took the dog from your yard.
The police did not write the report up right, because just as my witness stated that the police stated in the first thing that he saw Mela give the witness give the dog to a guy, my witness says she's never seen her give the dog to anybody.
Okay. I am not prepared to say that the defendant stole your dog.
Okay.
I'm prepared to say that you were a very bad caretaker of a 13-week-old puppy.
Okay.
And that you have to bear that burden. There is a slim possibility that the defendant may have been involved in stealing your puppy. I somehow doubt it. The only thing that I know for certain is that you let a 13-week-old puppy out unattended. Forget about the year-and-a-half-old puppy. I would never let my 2-year-old puppy out alone and unattended in an unfenced yard. So those are the consequences that you accept. Even if you have a fenced yard with a 13-week-old puppy, I don't know whether I would let a 13-week-old puppy out. They dig holes. And you also have to be afraid of somebody stealing them, because what you said is somebody stole your puppy, right?
I lost my dog, and I was honest about that when I made my police report. And this is why I did leave him out attended, because I work from home and I only had a 15-minute break. I went to the bathroom and came back out. By the time I got back to my computer desk to get back on after my 15 break, it had only been 20 minutes after, so I was only 5 minutes late after I had already did all the searching and everything. That's why I don't know how come I didn't see.
I don't know either. All you know for sure is that you let a 13-week-old puppy out alone. Okay. It's like letting a 6-month-old baby who's just learning to crawl. Go out, let's keep our fingers crossed that you come back. It's not about you, it's about the dog. And I would think twice about breeding dogs, because if you're very busy with your other business, this is not a hobby. Breeding dogs is a skilled art form that people should be educated about. And this is about the third case that I've had involving this adorable breed of dog, French bulldogs, that everybody thinks now is sort of a sport to raise. It's not a sport.
And that's what I know.
Good. Your case is dismissed.
This court is adjourned.
I don't think that I did any wrong by letting my dogs go out to use the bathroom.
I don't steal dogs.
Honestly, these are like my children.
I'm happy with the decision she made.
I made flyers and everything. She saw me calling my dog.
The dogs are running loose.
I actually love animals. I love my dogs.
Why would I steal your dogs?
And I certainly just wouldn't leave her unattended like that for no reason and stuff like that.
Hope she finds her dog.
She just admitted in there that she picked up the dog.
That was true. It was in my hands, but I handed it off to the guy who was out there who claimed that that was his dog.
Just want my dog back. It wasn't even about the money.
I seen posters and everything.
I'm not just a breeder. I care about my dogs.
I don't have it, so.
In this court and in most civil cases, the burden of proof is more evidence than not. And I really believe that before you label someone as a thief, you have to be pretty secure, pretty confident that their story is not possible.
Yeah.
Because there was some evidence that she had possession of the dog for a period of time, but then she gave a perfectly plausible, to me, explanation.
When you asked for that additional proof, I thought we were going to see a social media post after the fact with the defendant with the dog, you know, something that indicated that she had possession of the dog post this point of the time in which it went missing.
You just don't let your dogs run loose.
Yeah.
I mean, they could get hit by a car.
Nothing good happens from letting them run loose.
Nothing good.